Welcome back to Controversial Animal Topics. I'm your host, Dr. Turnera Croom, and today we are tackling one of the darkest truths most people don't know. Veterinarians die by suicide at a disproportionately high rate. This isn't fluff, it's raw, painful, and urgent. Pet parents, you need to hear it. And to my pre-veterinary students listening, I want you to take notes, because the earlier you understand this reality, the stronger and more confident you'll be when you enter the field. Let's dive in. Here are the hard numbers. A large U.S. study spanning 1979 to 2015 found nearly 400 veterinarian suicides. About 39% of those deaths involved pharmaceutical poisoning. Access to drugs we use every day in practice. According to the CDC and NIOSH, male veterinarians are about 1.6 times more likely, and female vets 2.4 times more likely to die by suicide compared to the general population. But when phenobarbital access is removed from the data, that elevated risk largely disappears, which shows how dangerous access to lethal means is in this profession. And another study noted that compared to other health professionals, dentists, physicians, veterinarians are most likely to die by self-poisoning. So yes, the risk is real, and access plays a role. For my pre-veterinarians, don't let this scare you off. Let it sharpen your awareness. Knowing these risks up front is protective. It helps you plan healthier boundaries right from the start. So now, let's talk about why. First, debt, income, and financial mismatch. Veterinary school leaves many with six-figure debt, and the pay is nowhere near a human physician. Despite veterinarians mastering multiple species, we talk about that often, and we sometimes joke with our physician colleagues. How many species did you have to learn, But it's really serious because clients will often expect discounts because they think that helping animals should just come from the goodness of our hearts. And we have great hearts. But that clash is draining. Then we have the emotional toll and the moral injury. This is where we have constant euthanasia decisions every day, where we have to make those decisions sometimes for people. And then watching patients decline because owners maybe cannot afford treatment. And then every diagnosis we give that's a negative, that's a poor diagnosis, we have to carry that grief with us every single day, and every single death that adds up. Next, we have the workload of veterinarians, our isolation, and our perfectionism. I definitely know something about this. We have long hours, sometimes 24/7 emergencies and access. And then there's a constant pressure to be available. Sometimes solo veterinarians, like myself, may feel completely isolated. Some vet clinics will have 5 or 6 veterinarians in there and you have a community. But even after COVID, there was a lot of a shift to mobile veterinary services and veterinarians moving from corporate to working for themselves or opening up their own clinic. That can be isolating. Also, many of us vets, like other professionals, we can be perfectionists. When outcomes go wrong, we internalize it heavily. And then lastly, we have client stress, harassment, and bullying. You're like, what do you mean, doc? I'll tell you. Clients yell. They accuse us of just wanting money. They drag us on social media. And each interaction like that just chips away at our morale. Chips, chips, chips. And sometimes it's the final straw. Pre-veterinary tip. If you're still in undergrad, or vet school, start practicing resilience now. Learn boundary language like, I'll need to check into that and get back to you. Find mentors. Ask them not just about medicine, but about how they cope emotionally. And remember, needing help doesn't make you weak, it makes you sustainable. All right. So now we want to get into the pet parents part because that is so huge. I tell my younger pre veterinary students who are still in elementary who are like, oh, yeah, I want to be a veterinarian. I want to work with animals. I don't like people. That's a dream. The pet parents are real. And, the pets cannot walk themselves into your clinic or call you up and say, can you come over? So, pet parents, let's talk about your role. Now, imagine this: your vet has already euthanized a family's beloved pet today. They diagnosed 3 animals with cancer and work through a backlog of emergencies. Then you walk in angry because your prescription wasn't filled fast enough. To you, it's one frustration. To the vet, it's another brick on an already collapsing wall. And here's what you might not realize, pet parents: demanding instant results adds stress when the lab is out of our control. We can't always control when the lab results are coming back. Also, pet parents, accusing us of greed hits especially hard when we're drowning in debt ourselves. Social media attacks can devastate a veterinarian's reputation and morale overnight. And then constant second guessing of a diagnosis or of a treatment plan erodes trust and drains energy. So, pet parents, ask yourself, could your tone, your words, your assumptions be pushing a vet closer to despair? That's not hyperbole, that's reality. Pre veterinary students, start observing these client vet dynamics when you shadow. Notice how vets set or fail to set boundaries. It'll give you a roadmap for how you'll handle your own clients one day. But this isn't all doom and gloom. There are interventions. Okay, so control. Stronger safeguards on euthanasia drugs, right? You can have secondary signatures or tighter storage protocols. Small changes can really reduce impulsive access. Next, mental health support. We need to have confidential counseling, peer support groups, and debriefs after tough cases. And then normalizing time off. Like even right now, right this moment, I'm actually in Louisville, Kentucky. Yes, it's for a veterinary conference, but I'm taking an extra day for myself. And that needs to be normalized because burnout is not weakness, it's an occupational hazard. Now, as far as client education, you need to make sure, pet parents, that you are respecting your vet's time. When they come into that room, if it's a clinic that you're going to, and they may only have 3 minutes because they've got rooms full of other pets, just take advantage of that time. Be ready with your questions. Have the vet assistant or vet tech who you're talking to ask them the question so that it can be easily shifted to the vet when they come in. So respect that vet's time. Express your gratitude. Even if it's just a simple, oh, just need shots. Thank you, doctor. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your patience. And then when you do have questions, which is totally fine, ask them with humility. Just because you've gone and asked Dr. Google about your pet's condition, and then you come in and you're saying like, oh, this needs to happen, or what about this and what about this, in a certain tone and not with humility, it's not going to make for a good and smooth conversation. You've got to figure out your role in this as well, pet parents, and realize that you could be playing a big part in these rates of suicide for veterinarians. We need some changes in the overall system as well in the veterinary industry, like debt relief programs and even more fair compensation models, veterinary associations prioritizing mental health. So the conference I'm at today has to do with veterinarians who do provide end-of-life services and making sure that we can improve those techniques and improve our communication with the pet parents. So I'm really grateful that the International Association of Animal Hospice and Palliative Care does prioritize mental health. For you pre-veterinary students, tap in right now to mental health services on your campus. Join student vet associations that talk openly about wellness. And if they don't talk about it, you bring it up. You take that initiative. And after difficult cases that you see while shadowing, debrief, ask some deeper questions, write about them, reflect on them. Remember, this career, it's a marathon, not a sprint. So pacing yourself isn't lazy, it's professional. If you have to take an extra year as you're preparing for vet school, that is just pacing yourself, okay? Don't be so hard on yourself. Next, we want to talk about the hard question. Pet parents, what if you were the last person to speak to a veterinarian before they died? Would you feel differently if you knew your words, careless, harsh, dismissive, were the tipping point? This is controversial, yes, but it's the conversation we need to have. We veterinarians are not invincible. We are type A personalities and are perfectionists sometimes. We are not invincible. We are not robots. We grieve. We get tired. And yes, sometimes we break. To my veterinary colleagues, you are not alone. Reach out. There is help. To pet parents, reflect. Choose compassion. Your behavior matters. I remember I had a client, this was a couple years ago, and being a mobile veterinarian, I was at this client's home and I had my vet assistant there with me, and I had to take this pet parent aside and let them know about these statistics. That's something I typically would not do, it had not done throughout my whole career. But as you learn more and you're able to set those boundaries, you're able to say, hey, this is poor behavior. I am here for your pet, and you are acting like I'm callous or not putting forth my best effort. Mm-mm. And that client understood right away. She was like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize, and from there, she was very easy to work with. But that just goes to setting those boundaries and speaking up for yourself. Okay. And then to my pre-veterinary students, of course, you want to let this empower you. Build community with your classmates. One way that my pre-veterinary interns are able to do this is just by way of being part of this virtual internship. They get to meet and network with fellow pre-veterinary students, ranging from a junior in high school all the way up through in vet school. They get to join me directly on telehealth and telemedicine consultations where we get to see the pet parent on video, and we get to the root of the problem. And this helps my interns see how to speak to the clients. Because in every situation, often when we talk about sales and business, they say, oh, the client is always right. Mm-mm. We've gone through all these years of schooling. We've learned all this. We're continuing to educate ourselves, and we are not perfect. We've got to be able to put those boundaries down. And sometimes it's okay to fire a client. Have I fired anyone before? Yes, I have, because I don't deserve what they were throwing out. Okay. So again, the pre-vet students, you want to find mentors, build your community, practice boundaries and self-care. Do that now, not someday. That confidence will carry you through the hardest cases, and it might even save your life. This has been Controversial Animal Topics. Please stay tuned for our next episode where we'll be jumping into the controversial topic of vaccines, whether they're needed annually. Being a holistic veterinarian, I often receive questions about whether certain vaccines are needed and can we go without. We'll get into that next time here on Controversial Animal Topics. I am Dr. Turnera Croom. Stay kind, stay aware, and see you in the next episode.